Part 1. The manga began with Kanzaki asking his professor to reconsider the assignment pairings. The professor explained that the pairs had been decided through a lottery system and therefore could not be changed just for them. He advised them to stop complaining and get back to work. However, Kanzaki did not back down. He explained that his partner, Hanamori, suffered from a fear of men, so assigning her a topic like sex in young adult relationships was too much for her. The professor responded that it was not a bad topic since sex was an important factor in human behavior. With a sigh, the professor questioned why Hanamori had enrolled in a mixed-gender school if she truly had a male phobia, and why she had stayed so long. He added that once she entered society, she would need to interact with men more frequently and could not remain afraid of them forever. Hearing this, Hanamori began to cry. Kanzaki thought the professor was unnecessarily harsh, but he also wondered why she hadn't chosen an all-girls school. Kanzaki looked away awkwardly, reflecting that although he was interested in her, it wasn't solely because he found her cute. The professor concluded that the assignment would proceed as planned and ended the discussion. Later, at the library, Kanzaki called out to Hanamori, which startled her. He showed her 2 books and asked if they could be used as sources since they were recent and easily referenced. Hanamori hurriedly buried her head in her work and timidly said that if Kanzaki was okay with it, then she was fine using the books. Kanzaki found it hard to talk with her. While he was usually awkward around girls, Hanamori's difficulty was on a completely different level. Just then, he noticed Hanamori awkwardly looking at him and wondered if she wanted to speak. Kanzaki sent her a text apologizing for scaring her earlier and saying that if she needed help, he was there for her. From a distance, he gave her an awkward thumbs up. Hanamori replied, explaining that one of the books they had used previously was stored in the library's storage room, and the librarian for the day was male, so she asked Kanzaki to please retrieve it for her. Kanzaki immediately went to the librarian and brought the book back. When he handed it to Hanamori, he mentally reminded himself to stay out of her field of view and sat behind her, thinking that sitting there would let him be close without triggering her male phobia. After hesitating for a while, Hanamori thanked him. She timidly told him she felt safe around him and asked him to sit with her. Kanzaki wondered if this was her way of coping with her fear. Despite initial apprehension, they made significant progress working together and even organized a school survey to collect more data. Later, Hanamori bowed and apologized to Kanzaki. He offered her a drink and told her she didn't need to feel bad. However, Hanamori, teary-eyed, admitted that she fainted from fear while giving questionnaires to some men. Kanzaki hadn't expected her to be so scared. He thought that although she could talk to him comfortably, she froze around larger men, making it impossible to continue the survey in the same manner. After making up his mind, Kanzaki smiled and told Hanamori he would conduct the survey alone, as it wouldn't end well if she kept pushing herself. While he collected the data, she should work on the preface and main ideas. Hanamori worried it might be too much for him, and she also felt the assignment was a good opportunity to overcome her phobia. Clenching her drink, she said she wanted to try something, but needed Kanzaki's help and asked if he could assist her. Kanzaki wondered what she meant. He soon found out as he somehow ended up sitting on a bed in a hotel room, while Hanamori was taking a shower. He wondered how her simple request had suddenly led them to a love hotel. When Hanamori emerged from the shower, blushing, Kanzaki wondered if she had brought him there for the reason he suspected. She walked closer and called out to him. He awkwardly looked away. She admitted it was probably strange that she asked him for a request so suddenly, and Kanzaki, baffled, asked why she had brought him there. Hanamori climbed onto the bed, dropped her robe, and confessed she wanted Kanzaki to be her first man. Covering his face, Kanzaki freaked out and said she should wait a second because he didn't understand what she was saying. Hanamori held his hand and explained she had always been scared of men, and that this moment was important to her because it was her first time feeling like that. Kanzaki noticed her trembling hand but realized she was trying hard to overcome her fear. As she lifted his hand, she added that there was no one else she wanted to do this with, so she asked him to take care of her for the night. Kanzaki clasped her hand and admitted it was also his first time, so he didn't know if he would be any good but promised to try his hardest for her. She smiled and thanked him. So they did it. Afterward, Hanamori thanked Kanzaki for honoring her request, and Kanzaki thanked her in return, laughing awkwardly that he hadn't expected his project to lead to his first time. Smiling, Hanamori agreed and asked him to continue working on the project with her, even if it might be awkward when they next saw each other. Part 2. The manga continued with Hanamori announcing that they were collecting the questionnaires and asking for everyone's help. Kanzaki noticed that Hanamori's phobia had improved to the point where she could talk to bigger men. He thought that even if it was just to overcome her fear, Hanamori had chosen to do it with him, which made him wonder if she was interested in him. At that moment, Hanamori's friends, Mami and Kanna, appeared. Mami remarked that Hanamori had always been afraid of men, but seemed perfectly fine now. Hanamori credited Kanzaki, and he felt pleased by the praise. Mami commented that Kanzaki must be impressive since Hanamori was praising him. Kanna said they must be very close. Kanzaki, awkwardly, agreed they were close, and Mami questioned what kind of awkward expression he was making. Kanna teased that he must be easily overwhelmed. Kanzaki thought that from a third-person perspective they probably looked like a couple. Mami hugged Hanamori and smiled, telling Kanzaki not to assume she'd be given up so easily just because their relationship had improved a little. Kanzaki found the situation oddly familiar, recalling when he was younger and the friends of a girl he had confessed to confronted him. They told him that since he had only played with her once, he shouldn't think she would associate with him and warned him not to bother her again. Returning to the present, Kanzaki realized he was in a similar situation and nearly got in over his head, which baffled Hanamori. Stammering, Kanzaki rubbed the back of his head and said he would stop bothering them and return to the classroom to sort out materials for the presentation. When Hanamori tried to accompany him, he suggested that the three friends could hang out together and that he didn't want to get in the way. Kanna told Mami that Kanzaki behaved that way because they were harassing him, which shocked Mami. Hanamori was left speechless. While working in the classroom, Kanzaki thought he had almost acted impulsively again. Despite them doing it, he believed Hanamori had no reason to fall in love with him. Hanamori soon walked in, and Kanzaki remarked on how fast she was and asked where her friends had gone. She said they had classes to attend. She asked if something was wrong because he had been acting strangely earlier. He coldly replied that it was nothing and that it had nothing to do with her. He insisted they focus on finishing the project. However, Hanamori asked if they said something that made him uncomfortable. When he asked what she meant, she stammered and trembled, saying he wasn't the type to speak up for himself, and that if they had offended him, she apologized. Kanzaki stood and shouted that Hanamori had done nothing wrong, frightening her. He apologized for yelling suddenly, and she accepted. He explained it wasn't her fault but a painful memory from his past that made him uneasy. Awkwardly rubbing the back of his head, he clarified it was entirely his problem and that he only wanted to change the subject. He apologized for being inconsiderate. Hanamori silently approached and embraced him warmly. She said if merely thinking about it made him react like that, it must be a very painful memory. She thanked him for turning their embarrassing project into a happy experience by helping her overcome her fear of men. She said it was all thanks to him. She offered to help him and said he could tell her about anything bothering him. Kanzaki realized he truly liked Hanamori because of how kind, warm, and soft she was. As he remembered what happened between them, Kanzaki held his little brother down. Hanamori noticed and blushed, apologizing for causing trouble. Kanzaki told her it wasn't her fault that he reacted that way. He thought that while Hanamori was trying to comfort him, his little brother was having useless thoughts. He believed it was all over, thinking there was no way she liked him, and prepared to say goodbye to romance. But to his surprise, Kanzaki stuttered and asked if she could help him. He said they couldn't do it at school since someone might see them, but she said she had booked the room so they could work on the project, so it would be fine. And so they did it. Afterward, Hanamori was about to tell Kanzaki something when they suddenly heard approaching voices. They quickly put their clothes back on and sat side by side on the corridor floor, both thinking they had done something terrible on impulse. Kanzaki remembered and asked Hanamori what she wanted to say earlier. As she stood and put on her hat, she smiled and said she would tell him next time, which baffled him. As they walked away together, Kanzaki thought that even though he liked Hanamori, he didn't know how she felt about him. Part 3. The manga's final part began in a bar where Kanzaki, Hanamori, and their professor's other students were drinking. Two of Kanzaki's friends, Kuji and Aino, sat with him. Aino asked why Kanzaki was drinking alone in a corner instead of joining Hanamori. Kanzaki said there had been no space beside her when he arrived. Aino remarked that Hanamori was popular and asked if Kanzaki had done the deed with her yet. Kanzaki spat out his drink and stammered in surprise, asking why they would think that. Kuji said that Hanamori had started talking to men more when they began working on the project, so he assumed something happened between them. Kanzaki thought Kuji was very observant and he replied that they weren't dating yet. The friends mocked him for not dating her, saying he had a Vijin face. Kanzaki looked away, thinking he'd said too much. Aino asked him to tell more, but Kuji told him to calm down since they would find out soon enough and warned him not to make a fool of himself. Kanzaki awkwardly said he would greet Hanamori and then go home. He noticed they were arguing about something. Kuji explained that the guy holding Hanamori's hand was Kashi, who had been trying to pick up girls since arriving. Kuji added that Kashi might try to take Hanamori home, since she seemed inexperienced and wondered if he should intervene. Suddenly, Kanzaki stood up and walked over. He saw Kashi telling Hanamori he would be lonely and asked if she was free later. Kashi broke out in a cold sweat when he saw Kanzaki standing behind him with a scary expression. Ignoring Kashi, Kanzaki extended his hand to Hanamori and asked if her house was far, and if she wanted him to take her home since he was leaving. Kanna and Mami blushed and covered their faces at Kanzaki's gentlemanly behavior, and Hanamori's eyes sparkled. She immediately stood up and took Kanzaki's arm as they walked together. As they left, Kanna told Kashi he didn't stand a chance, and Kashi asked if they were already a couple. They replied that they would soon start dating. Outside, Kanzaki apologized awkwardly to Hanamori, saying that although he handled the situation with Kashi, rumors would probably spread. He rambled that he did it because Aino warned that Kashi might take her home. Kanzaki admitted that although Hanamori had gotten better at talking to men, she might still get scared if she pushed herself too far, so he couldn't ignore the situation. Hanamori grabbed his coat and asked how he knew, which surprised him. She said she was still scared of men but much better because of Kanzaki. She found Kashi scary and said it was rare for all their classmates to go out together. She had gone because she needed to adapt to society but felt she had made the wrong choice, until Kanzaki appeared, reliable as always. She said that whenever she felt scared or hurt, he was there to help her, and she was lucky to be paired with him. As their chests touched, Kanzaki wondered whose heart was beating so fast. Hanamori thanked him again. As they embraced, Hanamori asked if Kanzaki's house was close and if he wanted, he could take her home. He responded by grabbing her hand and running home with her. Once home, they did it. Afterward, Hanamori presented their report and thanked everyone for listening. The class applauded and the professor congratulated them on a job well done. He said the survey matched their argument perfectly and praised both presenters for a fantastic delivery. He noted that Hanamori seemed like a completely different person compared to when they began the assignment. When the professor attempted to credit himself for encouraging her, Hanamori cut him off, insisting it wasn't due to him. With that, the project concluded and the class disbanded, but Hanamori and Kanzaki remained inseparable.